Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and welcome to today's video where I am going to be looking back at my own anticipated releases from 1 year ago and find out if I actually ever read them. This is a fun little series that I've started doing on my channel. I started it last quarter. I always think it's fun to reflect on books that I was excited about and find out if I did read them. Did I actually like them? Was I correct in anticipating them so much? Or did I not like them? Or did I just not end up reading them? I do think it helps me calibrate a little bit for my own tastes, and as I make plans for my upcoming anticipated release videos, it helps me kind of understand what do I actually end up reading. Another thing I did last quarter after I did this video is any of the books that I hadn't read yet but was still interested in, I did a reading vlog reading those books to kind of close the loop and make sure all the books I talk about in these anticipated release videos, I've either actually read them, tried to read them, or determined they're not for me. So I am just going to pull up my own anticipated release video with books from Q1 of 2023. And for each book that I talked about, I'm going to categorize them into one of three categories. The first one is I have read it, or I have attempted to read it and decided to DNF it. The second category is I have not read it and I'm still interested in reading it. And the third category is I have not read it, but I've decided that I'm no longer interested in this book. And the goal is mostly just for fun, but also I would love to minimize that number of books that I haven't read and I'm still interested in. So depending on how many of those I end up with, I may do another vlog, just like last quarter, reading those old anticipated releases. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the video. So let's just go ahead and get right on into the books. For January, I have 8 books that I'm excited are coming out. The first is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. This is coming out on January 3rd. The Villa, yes, I have read it. And I was on my friend Jessie's channel for this book for a book discussion, which was really fun, and I'll link it below for nostalgia's sake. I think I gave it 3 stars, so not my favorite Rachel Hawkins, but off to a good start. The next book I have on my list also comes out on January 3rd, and this was a NetGalley find. I have not read from this author before, but it's The Stranded by Sarah Daniels. I saw it on NetGalley and I actually requested it from NetGalley and I got approved, so I do have this book waiting for me to read it. The description says this is Snowpiercer meets The Hunger Games in a gripping near-future dystopian on a luxurious cruise ship that has become a refugee camp after being driven from Europe by an apocalyptic war. Okay, I have not read this book. I completely forgot about this book. I haven't heard anyone talk about it or anything, so I'm gonna put this in the category of have not read, but am still interested in. And then one more book coming out on January 3rd is Ghost 19 by Simone St. James. I have read, I think, 2 books by Simone St. James in the past. I've had kind of mixed feelings about them. I don't love paranormal elements in my thrillers, but I think going into Simone St. James's books and knowing that that's a strong possibility that she's going to include can definitely help my enjoyment of it or kind of prepare me for what I'm about to read so that I have the best chance of enjoying it. Okay, Ghost 19 I have not read. I think this might be like a short story by Simone St. James. I remember people, I think, commenting that. Simone St. James, like I mentioned, is not one of my favorite authors, and I didn't hear much of anything about this book or novella or whatever it is, so I'm gonna put this in no longer interested. Then on January 10th, we have All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. This is the author of A Flicker in the Dark, which I read earlier this year, I think in like January, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, All the Dangerous Things I have read. I also generally enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars, not a new favorite, but definitely was a high priority for me to read last year. Another January 10th release is Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kubica. I have read, I think, only one Mary Kubica book, although she has a pretty large backlist. Okay, Just the Nicest Couple. I have not read this book. Like I just said, I have only read one other Mary Kubica book, and that was like her most popular, most hyped book, and I did like it, but not necessarily enough to make me need to go back and read all of her other books. And this one I definitely did not see as much hype surrounding or as many positive reviews of, so I honestly don't think I'm interested in this one anymore. Then on January 17th, releasing is What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. This is the author of Rules for Vanishing as well as These Fleeting Shadows. I have not read either of those books, but a lot of people have and they really liked them. So this author has definitely been on my radar. Yep, I did read this one. I thought it was okay. We're seeing a trend. And I did also read this author's most recent book just this last month. So she's definitely remaining on my radar, and yeah, I already read it. Then on January 31st, Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun by Elle Casamano is coming out. I don't think I probably have to describe this book very much because so many people have loved this entire series. Yes, okay, I did read this one as well, and I've already been approved for the next book in the series on NetGalley, so I know I'm going to be reading that one too. So that's good. And then the last book that I have releasing in January on the 31st as well is The Drift by CJ Tudor. I have read The Other People and The Burden Girls by CJ Tudor, and I've really enjoyed them both. I think I gave them both 4 stars, so definitely interested in keeping up with this author's new releases. Okay, I did read The Drift. Unfortunately, I did not like it. It actually ended up on my worst or most disappointing books of 2023 list, so that's unfortunate for my enjoyment, but it's good for this video's purposes because so far I have read 5 of the 8 books that I've talked about. Then let's get into February releases. I only have 2. Apparently February is not as big of a release month for books. If you have any February releases on your radar, definitely let me know so I can beef this list up a little bit. But on the 14th, I have Broken Perfect Lies by Katie Wismer. Katie Wismer is an author and previous booktuber who makes videos here on YouTube. I really love watching her videos about her writing process and have pretty much read all of her books up to this point. Broken Perfect Lies actually sounds like it's going to be the most up my alley. I believe this is a suspenseful romance about like a bodyguard situation, or I think she's pitched it as like Hannah Montana romance with her bodyguard or something like that. Okay, yes, I have read this one and I did enjoy it, and what I just said is true. I do think it worked best for my personal reading tastes, so another one that I did read. And then on February 21st is The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This appears to be a debut novel. I really love the cover of it. Also looks to be a good winter read. All right, I'm crushing it. I also read this book. I also thought this was okay. So clearly all the mystery thrillers coming out in the first couple months of the year were a little disappointing, but again, good for this video's purposes. And then getting into March, I have, I think, 4 books to talk about in March. 3 of them released on the 7th. The first is The Jump by Brittany Morris. Brittany Morris is one of my all-time favorite authors. Slay and The Cost of Knowing are her 2 previous books, and I absolutely loved both of them. 5 stars easily. And this book sounds like her best yet. Okay, finally, a book that I can rave about. I did read this one. I loved it. It was on my favorites list. Brittany Morris is one of my favorite authors, and I will continue to read everything that she writes. Also releasing on March 7th is What Have We Done by Alex Finlay. I actually don't think I've read any Alex Finlay books, but his previous 2 books, The Night Shift and Every Last Fear, definitely have gotten a bit of attention here on BookTube. I just haven't had the reason to pick them up in the past. Okay, how have I heard absolutely nothing about this book? I have not read it, and I honestly have heard no reviews about it, which is a little telling. So I think that means I should put it on No Longer Interested, because up until this point, I completely forgot that this book even existed. And since I've heard nothing about it, good or bad, that tells me that I'm probably not missing much. And then the 3rd book releasing on March 7th is The Kind Worth Saving by Peter Swanson. As far as I understand, this is a sequel to The Kind Worth Killing, which I have not read yet, but I have heard great things. I've heard that this is one of Peter Swanson's best. I think the only book I've read by him so far is 8 Perfect Murders, which I thought was okay, but I do want to read The Kind Worth Killing and then possibly give the sequel a try if I end up loving it. Okay, I have not read this book. I also have not read The Kind Worth Killing, and I didn't hear great things about this sequel. I definitely think people were disappointed after really loving The Kind Worth Killing. So if anything, I guess I'm still kind of interested in the first book, but I'm definitely not necessarily interested in the second book. So it's going in No Longer Interested. And then the last book that I'm excited is coming out in March. It's coming out on the 14th. It's called A Long Stretch of Bad Days by Mindy McGinnis. Mindy McGinnis is one of my favorite authors. My favorite book by her is called Heroin. It's about a softball player who gets addicted to painkillers. Okay, I have not read this one, and I'm definitely still interested in it. Mindy McGinnis is one of my favorite authors. I don't know how I never read this book. I just never got my hands on it. So I definitely need to read this one ASAP. So in conclusion, I feel like I did pretty good this time around. Of the 14 books that I talked about from a year ago, I have read 8 of them, which is 57%, so over half. I feel like that's not too bad. 4 of them I'm no longer interested in, which is 28.5%, and I'm definitely okay with that, learning my taste and listening to reviews. I don't want to read books that I don't think I'm gonna love. And then only 2 books, or 14%, I haven't read but am still interested in. So I am going to make those 2 books a high priority for myself in the rest of this quarter to get them read so that I don't go any longer without reading my anticipated releases, and hopefully they are both winners for me. And like I said, I will probably vlog those, so if you want the follow-up to kind of round this video out with the books that I read and what I thought of them, I will keep you posted. But that is all I have for this video. Please let me know if you're surprised by any of the books that I did or didn't read in this video. How do you think you've done on your anticipated releases from about a year ago? Do you think you've read all of them and kept up with them? And are you interested in seeing my follow-up video reading those 2 books that I haven't read or talked about yet? They really closely fit my reading taste and I'm excited about them, so hopefully some of you are too. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else, so thank you so much for watching this video and I will see you in my next one.